Hi Radhika. Welcome to this webinar on creativity and education. And for giving introduction to all the participants, Radhika is director of Indo-German Training Center based in Mumbai. This is an initiative which is run by the German Chamber of Commerce, if I'm not mistaken, at the behest of German government. I think she'll speak more about that. And I know Radhika for some time now, and she's one of the person who can uh, go at operational level and also look at strategic level. Very few people can do all those activities from strategy to operations. And I'm amazed by her memory and recall. She has good memory. So, Radhika, I will let you introduce yourself for a minute, and then we'll start discussion. I know that education is passion for you, and especially higher education. And I have some interesting discussion lined up, I think, which audience will benefit from. So, first, over to you for your introduction.
Okay, thank you very much, Shailesh, for having me at this webinar. And I'll keep my introduction very short.
Yes.
I have been with the Indo-German Training Center heading its operations since 2006 now. So it's almost been a 15-year stint with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce as the head of their training initiatives and in specific management training initiatives. And this has been my key role and my key passion over the last 15 years when we've grown the center to work with more than 75 odd German companies to cater to their management training requirements at various levels, whether it was fresh graduates that they needed as entry-level management trainees, or whether it meant skilling their own employees at different levels of their cadre. IGTC has been responsible and has been recognized by now as the most preferred learning and development platform by most of our German member companies. And I think this has been a very interesting facet of my journey in education. It's obviously, brought me very close to industry. This is one of, I would say, one of the key, industry academia initiatives that are there. So it's a pleasure to, be a part of this. And whatever I will share today on the webinar will be out of my little experience hands-on as a part of the training story. Nothing very theoretical because I'm not one of those who's really a very good public speaker. I'm known to be more of a, hands-on, personalized, providing that kind of a personalized connect to most of our alumni and training partners. So whatever we will share will be from our learnings from this connections.
Yeah, and in this world of virtual connectivity, I think whether you are one-to-one speaker or whether you speak for the entire crowd doesn't matter because it is just a computer screen that you are speaking to, and then it's amazing technology that we can connect across the world and talk. So let me begin. So I have been very fascinated by German history. I have read German history about 10 years ago in detail, and I saw how I read about how Germany progressed quite significantly in late 19th century from being a poor nation to become a developed nation about 100 years ago, especially developed all the engineering skills, mathematical and scientific skills. Whatever science that we know of comes mostly from Germany. My other company, Imperial Galaxy, we are making airships. That industry was perfected by Germany 100 years ago. Or even jet engines you know of are perfect. So everything is that you know of has some German connectivity. And two world wars happened unfortunately, and even then they are the number one industrial power. And you are, so to say, uh, uh, a connect between India and Germany on the skills side. So, what what is that you see in India which is lacking as compared to Germany, and how can India benefit from Germany, especially on the skills side?
Yeah. Thank you, Shailesh, again. Very interesting to have noticed this journey of excellence that Germany has taken for the last so many years. Uh, the stamp made in Germany, I think, is something that stands for very high level of excellence, precision, and quality. And as people have
Mm-hmm.
always noticed, there are. I probably will quote Mr. Standrucker, my boss, who I have, been fortunate to
Mm-hmm.
have, been with for the last 15 years. He always says that there were four very critical pillars of the German economy. And this was
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost the German trade fair industry, which actually brought
Mm-hmm.
people in the trade fair industry to meet and do business and B2B activities. This is a very large part of the reason why Germany is able to get into so much of industrialization. The second piece of the German economy, the success story, is very clearly the SMEs, the small and medium
Mm-hmm.
enterprises that really drive the economy, hidden champions that have actually steered, and maybe small in their own niche in Germany, but really worldwide players in the export market. The third
Mm-hmm.
critical stage of the German success story is the chamber network, which is the
Mm-hmm.
chambers of commerce within Germany as well as the chambers of commerce outside of Germany. And we're very proud that we belong to the largest German chamber outside of Germany, which is the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. It is recognized as one of the most significant bilateral chambers of commerce. And it's the reason for also one of the most, the reason why Germany pays a lot of attention to India as a country. So you're right that we are the bridge between the Indian and the German economy, and we stand as we try to do justice to both sides and make sure that we do justice to the role in it. And the
Yeah.
fourth critical leg of the German economy, as you brought it to attention, is the vocational training and development piece, where
Yeah.
vocational training and as a network, the VET network, has been largely the reason for the success of the German economy. And this is where industry comes into play in a very big way. So the industry kind of supports the entire training and development activity of by taking young students as apprentices and then grooms them to become future potential talent for the organizations. And this is the piece that we try to bring to India. Again, the credit goes to giants like Siemens, Bosch, and Bayer, the companies that founded the training center way back in
Mm-hmm.
1991. We are now in our 30th year, and this
Mm-hmm.
was the concept of dual education, where you kind of the companies adopt a trainee right at the start of at the start of a program, and then they handhold them through the entire program and mentor them and train them as a part of the program. Became a model that was adopted by many of the German companies in India, rather replicated by many of the German companies in India. So this is the most critical piece. And I think while India, I would not say doesn't have this, to a certain extent, we did try our hands with the polytechnics and the diploma courses, which were really practice-based and practical-based. But we did not grow it into full-fledged, as a full-fledged, parallel stream of education. So somehow the university education became so popular, and it did not get the relevant respect. So you didn't find the right people going into polytechnic or diploma courses where they could have developed more skills, but this kind of tapered off, and obviously only university stamps became the stamp for approval, because of which probably the the vocational education piece did not take such a big upstream or an up curve as you would have desired. But of course, last 4-5 years, we see some more discussions and talks on bringing back the practical part in the education industry. Lot of universities trying to have these industry academia bridges wherein they can bring the industry to help and support the academic initiatives. But I still think we are far away from that piece. So I think that's the most important missing link, because of which we are training a lot of people in India, but still not completely employable people, and people who stay theoretical in their outreach or technical in their outreach, but don't have the necessary skills to fit in into the industry. So I hope that answers your question.
That answers my question, and leads to another question, to a set of questions. So, uh, how does so the apprentice system? How does it help in creativity of, let's say, blossoming the creativity of the trainees? So, the experience in India is that you hire people who are even postgraduate, and you show a problem. It's very difficult for them to think, unless you show them how to solve the problem. So, and you have been now working with giants like Siemens and Bosch and other companies. So, we would like to know your views as to how this helps in creativity, and what is that happens in that process. What is that secret magic that plays out there?
If you ask me, Shailesh, the most important piece in this industry connect is the mentorship, is the role of the
Mm-hmm.
mentor, and
Mm-hmm.
having the right mentorship. So again, you see a lot of focus and initiative coming in into creating coaches or leaders or mentors in the industry. And uh, this apprenticeship model, again, cannot sustain itself unless it is backed by a very strong mentorship initiative. Um, German companies, because of the fact that they have known of this system in the past, they probably are able to give it the right emphasis and the right focus, because of which the program succeeds. So at IGTC, we have a program where we take young graduates, right, from their graduation colleges, be it engineers, be it PCOM, be it any other stream of, to the extent we have some BAs with anthropology or BAs with different streams that have come in, uh, but we connect them to the right company at the start of the program. So you kind of have to, this matchmaking process of assigning the right student in the right role is a little bit of a tedious process. It doesn't come very naturally, and it doesn't come very easily that you just put one trainee, just send off trainees or send off people to do some projects in some companies. The matchmaking exercise needs
Mm-hmm.
some company to have the foresight that this is the kind of requirement I have, and hence I assign this mentor to pick up a trainee and then to groom that person within as a part of the program. So when we are working with companies, we always request them that please identify the department or the person who will be really accountable for making sure that this trainee's journey ends in the right direction, not necessarily into a job, but at least in terms of the right learnings that the person will have on their CV. And when you
Mm-hmm.
make sure that this right match has happened, so somebody who's really useful to the mentor also is assigned, not that the mentor is forced to take somebody who they really don't want to train. So they have a need, and the need is fulfilled with the right background of the person. And I think this combination then develops into a very mutually respected and a very mutually beneficial story, where the mentor is happy to handhold this trainee and take him through this journey, and that kind of sees the success of the dual education process. This would not come overnight. And even I've been often asked that why don't you scale up this? I mean, India needs 500 million trained people. So why don't you really scale up this model into a mass model? I don't think it's that easy. I personally think that this is, a very personalized niche service where you kind of connect pieces together. And only if you've connected them right, only then the
Mhm.
successful outcome will come out of the process. So if I had to still sum it up, the success of the internship or the apprenticeship process is the right mentorship in the companies, and nothing substitutes that. After you have the right mentor, then all your the entire journey becomes very smooth. I mean, of course, the person goes through the right learnings, but they are all, there's this kind of a synchronization and a kind of a smoothness in the process which otherwise will not exist. So we make it very
Okay.
essential that not only the HR of any of the companies participate in the selection of the trainees, but actually the business heads or the mentors are involved to whom the trainee is going to be assigned and allocated to. They must actually assume full accountability of the process.
Okay. That's very interesting perspective about mentorship, because yesterday morning I was speaking to one NGO who were trying to do mentorship for school children.
Mm.
So let's say college kids from privileged background would try to mentor school children from slums,
Yes.
and they were not having success that is required to be had there. And so I asked them as to, this is seems to be a noble cause, and college kids can anyway, if they're enrolled on their own, they can find 1 or 2 hours per week to do the
Yeah.
mentorship. But they said that structure was not right, the commitment was not right, both from the mentor as well as mentee.
Mentee.
And yeah, it is said that in coaching, the coachee should be coachable, otherwise the coach cannot coach. So maybe uh, that is so both the mentor has to be uh, willing to teach, and the mentee has to look
Be
at
willing to
something which is
learn.
not in text,
Correct.
to learn which is not in textbook. So
But
which
both
is
have to have a reason to be in that engagement.
correct,
They need
correct.
to, what
Yeah,
is critical is to find the motive or the motivation as to why these two are coming together in the first place. And
yeah,
if that is forced, it will never
yeah.
work.
Yes. Perfect. So I think that is the motivation, the internal urge to improve oneself is important.
It's also
Both.
not necessarily, Shailesh, just the urge. Sometimes I may really be meaning well, but if I don't see the right need along with it, that what am
Mhm.
I going to gain? I mean,
Okay.
ultimately there has to be a reason for me also to be in that engagement. It may not be a financial need, it may not, but there has to be some part of your need that has to get fulfilled. And if that need
Yes.
is identified right, I think it will yield the right results.
Wow, that's an important point. I think where on the Maslow's hierarchy you are
Yeah,
putting that
probably
person,
somewhere on the Maslow's hierarchy, that need
you need
has
to
to
put
be identified. You're right. I didn't want to use
present.
those
Yes.
theoretical words and complicate
Yeah.
the jargons because I try to stay away from the models, but that's what
Yeah.
I actually meant. You're right.
So that's I think very interesting point that you're making. So there are two questions which come to my mind. One is so you mentioned about be an anthropologist and you try to fit people. What are the mindsets, or what are the initial, let's say, traits that you look for in the students that you take in, apart from, let's say, the academic criteria that most management schools look to have? And since you are trying to give a perspective of practical experience which requires creativity, so what is that you look for in the person? So
So
when you want to bring in the
that's a
person.
very interesting question, and that's probably also one of the key differentiators at IGTC. We don't look at, I mean, we look at academics, but we don't look at academics in entirety.
Mhm.
So the first filter that we apply at IGTC, of course, every student who applies undergoes a psychometric test, which is
Mhm.
a basic aptitude test with regards to numerical, logic, and written communication. But we have a very interesting, every student who applies at IGTC undergoes a group interaction. And
Mhm.
part of this group interaction is also narrating your life story. Yeah. So we have, even on our application form, we have a one slide on that they have to present their life story in one slide. And I think this is also getting widely accepted by a lot of companies. And companies want to know your journey, as to what do you bring to the table. So at the end of IGTC, I think I shouldn't spill the beans too early, but when we look at companies like Siemens or Bayer, when they award the excellence awards at students at IGTC, I was, again, this is what I learned from them. I did not invent this, but as we worked with companies, we got to realize what is it that the companies actually look for in a talent. And when we asked people at Siemens, and they said clearly, the only three things we look for is a value match on our values of excellence, responsibility, and accountability. Yeah. So where have students shown these values as a part of their journey in life? Similarly, if you look at Bayer, it looks as what they call the Bayer life values, which is leadership, integrity, flexibility, and efficiency. So again, these bring out very softer aspects of the personality. And I think when companies, so what we try to do is, even at the group interaction stage, and at the final stage of our intake, which is actually the interviews with the companies, I think most companies look for more of a value fit rather than an academic fit. So you may have somebody who's extraordinarily intelligent, but is too aggressive for my liking, or too ambitious to, probably, I don't think that this person will be a sustainable talent. So every time you talk to German companies, they will look at the word sustainable talent. They will never say, or sustainable careers, that which is that talent which will give me a sustained career path, rather than just having, short fly-by-night people who will come, will be very ambitious, work for a few months, work well, but will upset my entire, team internally. So I think what most companies look for is that value fit, the cultural fit. Again, opening up this conversation on culture is a very is a very big conversation by itself. But I think mainly it is that if the person does not have the right sense of personal traits and personal stories where they have demonstrated these traits, I think that's what goes on to make a good trainee or a good intake for our IGTC program. So we look at people who resonate and show that substance. Sometimes they may not be the most eloquent speakers. They may not have the right skills to just talk their way. They may not have the gift of the gab, but not everyone needs to have the gift of the gab to work in areas which are probably operational, probably finance, probably hardcore analytics driven. They may have a good mind, and as long as they have the right mindset to work, I think they fit in well. So we look for these attributes, completely borrowing from the companies that we work with, and trying to see if we can find people who can fit that requirement of the organizations rather than academic. I mean, academics is just one of the initial filters, that it's a hygiene factor, that this much academic is
Yeah.
required. I mean, honestly, Shailesh, when you look at academic scores right now, 90s is a given for anybody who finishes their 10 standard. I mean, a 10 standard 90s or a 75 plus, or even BComs have gone up to 75, 80. So I don't think that's become a hygiene factor to say that if you have a first class throughout, you're eligible for admission. I think uh, is just the entry part of the program. What happens after
Yes.
that is very, very different in terms of the selection.
I think that you have brought a very important point. So before I go to the next question, I will try to say that German companies are known to be very innovative, very creative companies, and they emphasize on culture fit and value fit for their employees.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, an important aspect. So in fact, recently I wrote an article which will get published on Thursday about the role of culture in innovation. I
Role of
said
culture
that innovation,
in innovation.
innovation,
Yeah.
in innovation. I mentioned that it is the culture on which the innovation is built.
Yeah.
It is not on technology is just a current that is taking the boat wherever it has to be taken, but the boat is the culture that you are having. So these are interesting thoughts. People think that you get creativity or you get innovation because there is somebody, some magician sitting at top creating new products, but it is the culture that is driving. Very interesting thoughts.
So
So my
for
second
me, I mean,
question
I think,
was is that yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but I would say technology is
yeah,
just the enabler. It's probably your tools and your hands and legs to get the machinery moving. The culture is
correct.
your heart and soul. I mean, if your heart is in the wrong place, you're definitely not going anywhere.
Yes. So without culture, you cannot
Yeah,
build innovative products. You can't have creativity going.
true.
That is given. So before I move to the next question on culture and innovation, I have one curiosity which I wanted to ask you for so many times in the past, but never got a chance. But today I will ask that question: is that Germans are in the world? The concept is that the management education is something that Americans do very well,
Yeah, yeah.
and Germans are very good skills, or they're very good engineers. And here you are running on behest of German government, running a management school in India to help improve India's skill. So, do you maybe you joined the organization later, but do you know the thought process which went behind? Instead of creating an engineering college, why did the chamber decide to build a management college?
Uh,
Do you,
so from history, whatever little I know, I think I will go back into that. But I would also, I think it's our own personal also contribution. Um, I think you're completely right that Germans ideally are recognized for their technical skills, and the ideal option would have been to set up a technical college. And believe you me, we've tried very hard to do that also.
Mhm.
We did a lot of research to find out if we could handhold this vocational education and training process for the blue collared workers in various skill sets like tool and die engineering, in mechatronics, in for electricians, for other trades. The problem we invariably faced was that the investment required, because this kind of training for trades requires a huge amount of infrastructure and investment. And to come out of that investment, when people, even if you put in this investment, will people really be recognized with a very high level of, package at the end of it? Will they be compensated, or will they be treated differently after completing this program? So that gap was a little difficult to match. And a very ambitious project of the chamber, which was also supposed to be there in early 2010 or 2012, around that time, it unfortunately did not take the right initiative forward because of the lack of adequate support from companies coming together to put in that kind of investment, because the companies would have to invest in the infrastructure and the other areas. Management
that,
training came to us because we wanted to still do something along the lines of dual education. And
Mhm.
I think the German companies felt that it would be better if, like, they have a graduate engineer trainee path. So
Mhm.
along with a GET path, if they, what they used to popular call it, the commercial management trainee path, that if they needed the people on the commercial sides, instead of going and fighting for best pay packages at top B schools, can they have a path that is created where they themselves are responsible for the training, for the selection first, and then for the training, and then for the final path that is taken? And that's where they decided to bring in something like the IGTC, where they came together and they started this journey. And I can tell you, Shailesh, we've had amazing results. People from the 90s who studied this at the start of IGTC. Today in India, the MD of Lufthansa is a IGTC alumni from 1995-97. The head of strategy, maybe in Siemens, is a IGTCian. A lot of them went in as CFOs into various organizations because initially they took only BCom, fresh BCom students, and then put them on this path. So a lot of them grew in financial, the finance part of it. So these people who were kind of adopted by their companies as blue-eyed management trainees have really blossomed and flourished, and the alumni have done so well that then it's kept the wheels spinning, throughout the last few years. I think I would only say that the success of IGTC relies completely on every alumni that is out there performing well. And then that has created another churn that comes back and says, okay, this works well for us. So can we have more of these people? It's always the alumni that sell the success. There's just no other substitute to that. So that's why, as I said at the start, I'm more of a person who works on my student and alumni connect rather than being a good PR spokesperson. The alumni know what kind of an experience they've had at IGTC and what they've grown and how they've benefited from the course. And this has kept the wheels in motion, without a lot of, I wouldn't say without effort, but without too much publicity.
Wow. Yes, and that is very amazing. Yeah, and now I think we are also part of that same journey. We are sending our people from Decimal Point, and from other companies also we start sending people pretty soon to IGTC for the training. So coming to the next question that I had, one set of questions that I have is uh, how do you define creativity? Or if you look at your intake, you talk about value system and other things. Do you look at specifically creativity as an aspect for while selecting people for your course? And if yes, how do you go about doing it? And if no, then what do you mean in general by creativity in a people? Because people have to be creative in creating solutions for organizations where the problems are not seen before.
Yep. Shailesh, I wouldn't say that we look for creativity right up front. Because if we took people only who were creative and then trained them, then we wouldn't be doing any great work ourselves. IGTC has always been known to taking average, as I said, sustainable talent who has a certain amount of a drive to succeed. So the drive needs to be there. And the rest of it we do and train as a part of our program at IGTC. For us, I think creativity, and I think the last year was a superb on-the-job creativity churner, right? That on a day-to-day basis, we were coming up with newer and more innovative solutions. So for me, creativity is probably doing something better than what you did it even yesterday. So even if it means doing the same thing again, but as long as you could enhance it by making it again different and a little more purposeful for your audience, then that is creativity for me. The purpose, the value perceived by your consumer or your customer has to be different. So even if I look at alumni that look at IGTC, if we have to continuously kind of hold respect in the eyes of the alumni, the training center has to be at a certain level of innovation or creativity that will make them feel proud that, okay, we belong to this kind of a fraternity. For us, we have a very strong community saying, IGTCians at heart, phenomenal we will be. And when I chose this word phenomenal, I obviously gave it a lot of thought. It was not meant to be there just for, glorious English being, kind of, or a very high amplified statement being made. We really wanted each IGTCian to feel that they will be phenomenal, and being phenomenal does not come overnight. It is a journey that you take. It's a spirit that you imbibe. It is a it is a kind of a sentiment that gets ingrained into your system, that every time that you will do something, you will try to deliver that phenomenal impact or phenomenal result. For us, having that impact, even if it was doing the same thing again, meant a lot. And I think that's what we try to inculcate in every IGTCN. So a lot of it stems from the processes that we live by at IGTC. They see it on a day-to-day level. They see it in the way you kind of run the institute, or the kind of examples that the faculty share in the classroom. So creativity for us comes at various levels, right? It comes not only in, first and foremost, it comes in the classroom, where faculty are delivering very high level inputs in terms of their, even if it's a management course on marketing, or if it's a course on quantitative methods, but it is still dealt with in a very practical and a very creative way that the faculty, and I think that's the top of the line feedback that we have, that it's the faculty who drive this kind of thought process in the students that they are teaching. And each of the faculty at IGTC, I can be proud to say that they are not only just teachers, but they are actually, as the alumni have called them, they are gurus in the sense of imparting life lessons. Each faculty has touched the student with not only just their subject and their textbook, the knowledge that they had to impart as a part of the course plan, but also actually given them lessons on, how to live life and how to approach every situation in a different way. And I think that's top of the mind creativity for us. Of course, as when we are doing things like we do a proper workshop on design thinking as a part of our program now for every student that is a part of IGTC. And the most important piece of the design thinking program is also talking about empathy and about how you approach the customer. So that we do structured modules like that as well to enhance their creativity processes. But I think this is a part. I think every faculty, irrespective of which subject that they're teaching, they are kind of emphasizing this salient need to the students. The second piece I would say is also all the processes, the administrative functions wherein they see the handholding at every stage. They have obviously seen a new aspect, a new way of dealing with things. And I think in the way we come up with solutions for every little piece that was, even in the lockdown, the way IGTC was functioning, even though I think we were closed for only about 48 hours. Within 48 hours, we had dealt with moving to an online system, dealing with teaching, dealing with examinations, dealing with their company trainings that had to happen. So if I give you a small example, there was a very large population of students that was feeling very worried that for them, that was the only internship that they had as a part of the program during the lockdown from August, September, October last year. Whereas for a company and for the entire world at large, people were, in a lockdown. And so what if you could not finish one internship? There were a lot of people who gave up on the thought that this is one internship I will have to forego. And we tried to take feedback from a lot of our industry partners. And genuinely, some companies were very prepared in August to start the internship. Like they said, we know because our projects are already lined up and we don't want to delay this because we are waiting for the trainees to come. And there were some companies that said there is just no way I can take the trainee in August. I will have to wait for a few more months for things to, open and mobilize. And these were students who were spread across companies across India, from Delhi, from Chandigarh, to a majority of them in Pune and in Bombay. And given this dilemma, I think we came up with the solution that we would create a gap of 2 months within the program. So we gave the companies the flexibility that you have between August, September, October, all the way to December. But you could take your trainees at any point of time for 3 months, or you could take them for 5 months. they would only stand to gain if they had a little more practical experience. But taking those kind of solutions and staying with the customer journey, I mean, to stay with the audience, to first and foremost listen to their problems and understand and appreciate where their concerns were coming from, and then try to find a solution, I think meant creativity for us.
Yes.
This was, I think, last year was very fascinating. And to be able to finally have a group of people who will graduate with a high level of satisfaction, despite the difficulties, I think we couldn't have demonstrated more creativity than that in the last 1 year.
Yes, I think
So
that's an excellent answer. I think.
I
Good.
think we are very practical on it. We are not very defined, but every example that we've lived with, we have felt very strongly about it, and we felt that this is what made a difference. And if it made a difference, that innovation was worth it.
Mm,
I think somebody had a
definitely.
question,
So
right?
there is a question from
Yeah.
question. Yeah. So can you unmute yourself and ask the question, please? Uh, Hello.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Radhika ma'am.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. Thank you.
It's till now. It's been such a thought-provoking and such great insights into what IGTC is doing and how important it has been in the growth of so many careers in future of so many people. And thank you so much for getting these concepts of how values and uh, getting into the culture of the company is so important for new joinees. Thank you for that. So my question is more related to the creative thinking part. How important do you think is it to inculcate creative thinking from early childhood, that is at school level, and what role does a teacher play in that?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. Interesting one, but I will have a very simple answer. Uh, I don't think creativity uh, has to be inculcated from early childhood, because it is very much there in the early childhood. Actually, it should not be boxed by us. We kind of box it and put it in a stylo and say, hey, this is not allowed. So the question should be, ideally, how do we not destroy the creativity that is there in early childhood or in school children, because they are at that age, they are most curious, they want to know, they want to, I think if I ask somebody to give a life sketch or a story in one page, if I ask a postgraduate to give, or if I ask a student, school child, to give his life sketch on a page, the school child will probably outdo the postgraduate. Yeah, he'll probably give a life sketch much faster than a postgraduate will, because for children, it's very young, they're very impressionable, and they're very much they're very free if you allow them to be. But the problem is, they will end up getting boxed and stereotyped and getting a little more, uh, you know, I think they get more jarred by the society than the society getting affected by them. So if we
So
allow
true, ma'am.
kids to flourish, grow, and not, I mean, which I think a lot of the schools in India have learned to recognize this. I think we must give a lot of credit to our schooling system. I think even for someone like me who studied way back in an SSC medium, I completely enjoyed my school years. I don't think we should ever think that our schooling system is really detrimental to us. I think by and large, we just need to keep our senses a little more awake, and not, what happens is, I think, more or less, that people kind of get pushed down by their even in older days, you kind of get stereotyped, and then you get sidelined by your teachers and your peers. I think if we can keep that influence a little bit away for some, try to at least not let it damage too much, I think we will achieve a lot more.
Wow, ma'am, that was such an amazing answer. That's something very new with which I've heard that some because people generally say that our education system is outdated and there needs to be a lot of changes brought into that.
I personally
So,
don't think our education system is sad. I am very, very proud of the fact that I graduated from a SSC school. I still stood for excellence even at that time. My school gave me enough opportunities to flourish, to grow. Um, Life was good, and there were never any complaints. And if you keep that attitude and you go along, I think India has a lot to be blessed, and we need to count our blessings much more than grumble about what we have around us.
true, true. So, like you said, yes, children are creative, yes. It's just that their creativity is somewhere lost because they are boxed. So, what role does a teacher play in, not letting that fade out, that creativity fade out, and still help the child to be creative in their approach?
I think a teacher, the primary prerequisite to be a good teacher, everything apart, has to be that the person is non judgmental. I mean,
Mhm.
no teacher has a business to give up hope on their kid or on their child, yeah, or on their student. And I think somewhere, because of some biases, sometimes we kind of tend to prefer, or we just tend to give the limelight to some of those who are really verbal and who are speaking a lot more in class. And I just feel that if teachers did a little more to reach out to the quieter ones, to the ones who are, because there is a hidden champion in everyone. It's the teacher's role to be able to find that hidden champion and to be able to do justice to it. If you've not done justice to it, or if you say that I had a sad kid in my class, I think we have no business to be in that role and that profession.
True, ma'am. So true. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been
So
wonderful interacting with you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Pari. Thank you.
yeah. So I have a question.
Yes,
With, I think
I think Atul has a question.
Atul also has a question. So Atul, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? We just typed the question, so maybe you can answer the
Yeah.
question.
So his
Mm.
question is regarding the online degree being well accepted in the industry. Um, so Atul, my response is that, when you are going to an interview table, obviously the first things that come out are your skill sets that you take to the table, to the job interview. And much later is the question comes that, okay, where did you graduate from? And then very rarely will someone say, oh, but was this an online degree or an offline degree? um, I think why the reason is that people are apprehensive about an online degree is because your level of interaction, your self confidence, your experiences that you would have made in an offline education, in a physical live education, would definitely not be the same. So your entire expression at the time of an interview in an industry will probably change because you've not had those live experiences and you've only sat and done an online behind the screen educational program. And I think that's what makes the biggest difference to industry, that does the person come with the right skills because of his experiences, or is he just a bookish theoretical person? So even after this COVID scenario, I mean, the entire last 1 year being online, does IGTC have a plan to make online education its its new norm? We are very clear that we don't want to be in that space, or that's, because that's not what really adds to the skill sets and won't help people really flourish when they have to actually join industry. So my personal take is that I would be a little worried because the person has really not got. So we do get a lot of applications at IGTC these days where people come in with a piece of paper which probably is online, and hence that group interaction, or the session where you are actually screening the person's life journey and the life stories that he has made is probably very critical for selection. So as long as somebody's done an online education but has had enough to talk about himself or herself because of the experiences that they've made parallelly in life, I still think would be very well accepted in industry. So it depends on which side you are on. I hope that answers your question, Atul.
Yes, I think that question is
Yeah.
answered. You
Yes.
said for that. So I have one question, one final question before we
Yes.
call it. So have you seen any change in the type of students that are coming in, the quality of students over last few years? And another question that I have is that you have both executive course as well as MBA course, which is I guess in MBA course more of freshers come, and in executive course
Yeah.
people with lot of experience come. So have you seen any difference in creativity of these two groups? And have you seen any change in creativity of the people over last few years?
It's a very interesting question, and it's sad. I come towards the fag end of the session. So, Shailesh, the biggest culprit of killing creativity is the online and the technology world that we are all living in. If
Mhm.
people stop looking into somebody is looking around in the world and feeling and sensing the world around, they will
Mhm.
never have the right inputs to creativity. So, if you
Mhm.
see a change in quality at IGTC, we see better students coming because we're just getting more popular and more people apply to us. So our screening has just gotten sharper and we end up taking better kids. But overall, even if the brightest kid comes to IGTC, if I have to compare them to kids 5 or 7 years ago who did not have so much dependence on technology and who were probably more in sync in their communication, because even if it is as simple as talking to a faculty or asking the right questions during a coffee break, that piece has changed, right? I mean, people earlier in a tea or coffee break would come out and talk to professors or ask their doubts. Right now, they just want to run out and check their WhatsApp messages. That's what's killed the creativity in us. And that's what will probably lead to
Ah,
the little deterioration in quality. So while if I have to put the brunt of at the sound of sounding very old fashioned, I really think that technology has curtailed a lot for us. The second piece, what you addressed about the executive patches, we get a very good pool of very high performing managers into the program because these are already nominated or most of them are sponsored by their companies. So a lot of them are very strong talent working in various Indo-German member organizations. And our primary target is that uh, you have to be to avail and be a part of the program. You have to be a part of the chamber's membership list, and we invite any high performing manager from the chamber list to come and participate in this course. So we do get a very strong pool of people starting from managers to general managers. I mean, being a GM in a Bosch or a Mercedes is definitely with at least 15 to 20 years of experience. And people, even at 40 and 45 years, all the way up to 50, if I have to say so, come back to refresh and reskill themselves. And I think
wow.
this is really working very, very strongly for us. I mean, we're very happy with the pool of executives that we are dealing with because for them, the impact is very strong. When they go back to their companies and they actually apply what we have taught at IGTC, the visibility of that impact is much higher than what a young PG kid will go back and do. And
Correct.
that's really an inspiring story for us. So we love the
Yeah.
executive courses. Just to close the piece, we earlier used to have the executive courses only in Mumbai and Pune, where we did it on alternate weekends. With the success of over about 700 people trained in this weekend courses, we have now opened up to an all India audience. So anybody from all across India can come to IGTC and study with us. And to make it easier for them, we have converted our weekend course into a block format. So you can come for 9 days every 3 months and do the course with us. And you complete it over six such blocks. So in
Mm.
16 months, you still do the same program that you would have done in 1 year. But it's very effective. That's where two of your high performers are. And I
Yeah.
think it was a great start to that All India batch.
Yeah. In fact, based on your this All India badge, uh, in our company, we change our recruitment policy. So now instead of recruiting everybody MBA, we are now going into villages and recruiting BComs
Mhm.
who cannot do MBA, and then we are promising that we will
Yeah.
send them to IGTC after 3 years or
Yeah,
five
we'd be
years.
very happy to train people who are not so privileged and who can still
Yeah.
benefit from this kind of a program. Find us the bright ones from, the tier 2 cities or the towns and the villages, and I'm sure we'll be able to do a lot of justice to them. Um, just for the reference of your audience, I mean, Siemens as a policy provides 10 scholarships for people who are below the income bracket of 4 lakhs of rupees as a family income of 4 lakhs. So if they people from that kind of a background but found meritorious, Siemens completely funds the entire tuition fees of that student at IGTC. So we have 10 such need-based scholarships. And I know that you were also considering something along the same lines where you could sponsor people into your program. So we are very happy to do justice to them and maybe hopefully put them onto the right path in the companies.
Definitely. So,
Yeah.
that's quite amazing, and I'm very impressed by this. And thanks for your time today.
My
And
pleasure, Shailesh. My pleasure.
got
And really happy to have done this for you. I hope it did justice to your expectations. I don't know. As I said, I'm not a good, I'm not, I don't do many of these webinars, but
so
yeah, it's sometimes nice to spread the word out.
so usually in the webinar, somebody is asking question, I'm answering the questions. This is first time I'm doing where I'm asking the question
But you did
and
a good
somebody.
job. I
Yes.
must say you did a great job.
I'm glad that I did that, and uh, I think we'll put it on online, and I think people
Yeah.
will benefit from it and from your amazing work. And whatever you told, it was quite very, very interesting inputs. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you very much. And we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.